The year was 2015. The world watched in disbelief as a corporate giant, Volkswagen, was caught in a web of deceit. This wasn't just any scandal, this was Dieselgate. Volkswagen, a company synonymous with German engineering and reliability, had been cheating on emissions tests for years. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, dropped the bombshell, revealing that Volkswagen had equipped its diesel cars with software designed to fool regulators. This software, a defeat device, allowed the cars to appear clean during testing while emitting harmful pollutants at much higher levels during regular driving. The scandal sent shockwaves through the automotive industry and beyond. How could a company with such a long-standing reputation for quality and innovation engage in such blatant deception? The answer, as the world would soon learn, was a complex mix of corporate ambition, regulatory loopholes, and a disregard for environmental and public health. The scandal, which implicated millions of vehicles worldwide, would have far-reaching consequences for Volkswagen, the automotive industry, and the future of transportation. Volkswagen, a global automotive powerhouse, had built its reputation on producing reliable, fuel-efficient vehicles. The company's diesel cars were particularly popular in Europe, where they were marketed as a clean alternative to gasoline-powered vehicles. However, behind this carefully crafted image of environmental responsibility lay a dark secret. Volkswagen had been systematically cheating on emissions tests for over a decade. The company had equipped its diesel cars with sophisticated software designed to detect when the vehicles were being tested. During these tests, the software would activate a clean mode, reducing emissions to legal limits. However, once the vehicles were on the road, the software would switch to a different mode, allowing the engines to emit nitrogen oxides, or NOx, at levels up to 40 times higher than allowed by law. This deliberate deception allowed Volkswagen to sell millions of vehicles that polluted the air at levels far exceeding regulatory standards. The deception was not limited to a single model or region. It spanned multiple vehicle models, engine types, and continents, affecting an estimated 11 million vehicles worldwide. The scandal exposed significant flaws in the existing regulatory framework, which relied heavily on laboratory testing that proved easily manipulated. The EPA, along with other regulatory bodies, had been misled by Volkswagen's sophisticated defeat device, which effectively masked the true emissions levels of its diesel vehicles. The scandal triggered a wave of investigations, lawsuits, and regulatory actions against Volkswagen. Governments around the world launched probes into the company's practices, seeking to determine the extent of the deception and hold those responsible accountable. The scandal led to a fundamental shift in the way emissions testing is conducted, with a greater emphasis on real-world driving conditions. The fallout from the Dieselgate scandal would have profound implications for the automotive industry, forcing automakers to reevaluate their environmental practices and prioritize the development of cleaner technologies. At the heart of the Dieselgate scandal lay a sophisticated piece of software, a defeat device as it came to be known. This software, installed in the engine control unit or ECU of Volkswagen's diesel vehicles, was the mastermind behind the emissions deception. The ECU, often referred to as the brain of a modern car, manages a complex array of engine functions, including fuel injection, air intake, and exhaust gas recirculation. Volkswagen's engineers had exploited this complexity, embedding a devious logic within the ECU's software. This software was programmed to detect when a vehicle was undergoing an emissions test. It could identify specific parameters, such as steering wheel movement, speed, and tire pressure, that indicated a laboratory setting. Once the software determined that the vehicle was being tested, it would activate a clean mode. This mode adjusted engine parameters to reduce emissions to legal limits, effectively creating a facade of compliance. However, this clean mode came at a cost. It reduced engine performance and fuel efficiency, factors that Volkswagen was unwilling to sacrifice in real-world driving conditions. Section 2. The defeat device, a technological Trojan horse. Once the vehicle was out of the testing environment and on the open road, the defeat device would switch off the clean mode and revert to a different set of engine parameters. This normal mode prioritized performance and fuel efficiency, but at the expense of significantly higher emissions. In this mode, the vehicles would emit nitrogen oxide, or NOx, at levels up to 40 times higher than allowed by law, polluting the air with harmful gases that contribute to smog, acid rain, and respiratory problems. The defeat device, a technological Trojan horse, allowed Volkswagen to deceive regulators and consumers alike. The company could boast about the fuel efficiency and environmental friendliness of its diesel vehicles, while in reality, these vehicles were pumping out illegal levels of harmful pollutants. The software was carefully crafted to be undetectable by standard emissions tests, allowing Volkswagen to maintain its deception for over a decade. The company's engineers had exploited the trust placed in them, using their technical prowess to subvert regulations and endanger public health for the sake of profit. Section 3. A culture of deception. The Dieselgate scandal was not the result of a few rogue engineers acting independently. It was a systemic failure, rooted in a corporate culture that prioritized profit over ethical conduct and environmental responsibility. Volkswagen had set ambitious goals for its diesel car sales, particularly in the United States, where diesel vehicles were seen as a way to meet stringent fuel economy standards. However, the company's engineers soon realized that meeting these standards while maintaining the performance and fuel efficiency demanded by consumers would be a significant technical challenge. Instead of investing in cleaner technologies, or admitting that its diesel vehicles could not meet emission standards without compromising performance, Volkswagen chose a different path: deception. The decision to implement the defeat device was likely made at high levels within the company, reflecting a calculated risk that the cheating would go undetected. This decision revealed a deeply flawed corporate culture, one where ethical considerations were sidelined in pursuit of market dominance and profit maximization. Section 1. The hammer drops financial and legal fallout. The exposure of Volkswagen's emissions cheating sent shockwaves through the global automotive industry. The company, once a symbol of German engineering prowess, was now synonymous with corporate scandal and environmental negligence. As investigations by regulatory bodies around the world gained momentum, the true extent of Volkswagen's deception and the financial consequences it would face became staggeringly clear. The United States, where the scandal first came to light, took a particularly hard line. Volkswagen executive, the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, slapped Volkswagen with billions of dollars in fines for violating the Clean Air Act. The Department of Justice filed criminal charges against the company, leading to a deferred prosecution agreement and the appointment of an independent monitor to oversee compliance reforms. But the financial penalties were just the tip of the iceberg. Volkswagen also faced a tsunami of lawsuits from angry car owners, investors who had lost money, and state governments grappling with the environmental damage caused by the excess emissions. The legal battles dragged on for years, with Volkswagen eventually agreeing to pay out tens of billions of dollars in settlements and buybacks of affected vehicles. Section 2. Executive exodus heads roll as accountability looms. As the Dieselgate scandal engulfed Volkswagen, the clamor for accountability grew louder. The company's board of directors, facing intense pressure from shareholders, regulators, and the public, moved swiftly to contain the damage and demonstrate a commitment to change. Heads rolled at the highest levels of the company. Martin Winterkorn, Volkswagen's CEO since 2007, resigned, accepting responsibility for the scandal even as he denied personal knowledge of the cheating. Other top executives, including the heads of research and development and engine development, also stepped down. The exodus of top leadership signaled a recognition within Volkswagen that a profound shift in corporate culture was needed. The company appointed Matthias Müller, the head of Porsche, as its new CEO, tasking him with restoring trust in the beleaguered automaker. Mueller pledged to cooperate fully with investigations, overhaul the company's compliance procedures, and foster a culture of ethical conduct and environmental responsibility. But the road to redemption would be long and arduous. Volkswagen faced the daunting task of rebuilding its reputation, regaining the trust of consumers, and navigating a rapidly changing automotive landscape where electric vehicles and stricter emissions regulations were becoming the new normal. Section 3. A tarnished reputation, the price of deception. The Dieselgate scandal left an indelible stain on Volkswagen's reputation. The company that had once been synonymous with German engineering excellence and reliability was now associated with deception, environmental negligence, and corporate greed. The financial costs of the scandal were staggering, but the damage to Volkswagen's brand image was perhaps even more significant. Consumer trust, painstakingly built over decades, had been shattered. Sales of Volkswagen diesel vehicles plummeted, and the company's market share in key markets eroded as buyers flocked to competitors. The scandal also had a ripple effect throughout the automotive industry. Regulators around the world tightened emissions testing procedures, making it more difficult for automakers to cheat. The scandal also cast a shadow over diesel technology as a whole, accelerating the shift towards electric vehicles and alternative fuel sources. For Volkswagen, the road to recovery would be long and arduous. The company embarked on a massive effort to buy back affected vehicles, invest in electric vehicle technology, and rebuild its reputation. However, the Dieselgate scandal served as a stark reminder that corporate misconduct can have far-reaching consequences, not only for the companies involved, but for entire industries and the public trust they rely upon.
It was really disheartening. I had trusted Volkswagen for years and suddenly I felt betrayed. It made me question the integrity of the entire automotive industry.
Section 1. The Canary in the Coal Mine. A small team, a big discovery. While the Volkswagen emissions scandal sent shockwaves through the automotive industry and made headlines around the world, its origins can be traced back to the meticulous work of a small team of researchers at West Virginia University.
Led by Dr. Greg Thompson, an expert in diesel engine emissions, this group had embarked on a seemingly routine project in 2012, funded by the International Council on Clean Transportation, a non-profit organization focused on reducing vehicle emissions. Our task was straightforward: test the real-world emissions of diesel cars sold in the United States.
The team, armed with portable emissions measurement systems, hit the road, testing a handful of diesel cars, including 2 Volkswagen models and a BMW. PEMS devices allowed them to measure emissions in real-world driving conditions, providing a more accurate picture than the static laboratory tests typically used for regulatory compliance. The researchers were meticulous in their approach, driving the cars on a variety of roads and under different conditions to gather a comprehensive dataset. Little did they know that their findings would soon expose one of the biggest corporate scandals in automotive history.
We were just doing our job, but the data we collected was undeniable. It was clear that something was very wrong.
Section 2. David versus Goliath, Unmasking a Global Giant. As the West Virginia University researchers analyzed the data from their road tests, a disturbing pattern emerged. While the BMW performed as expected, the 2 Volkswagen models, a Jetta and a Passat, showed significantly higher levels of nitrogen oxide emissions in real-world driving compared to their laboratory test results. In some cases, the on-road emissions were nearly 40 times higher than the legal limit. The team was initially puzzled by the discrepancy. They meticulously reviewed their testing procedures, double-checked their equipment, and even repeated the tests to rule out any errors. But the results were consistent. The Volkswagen cars were emitting far more pollutants on the road than they were in the laboratory. Suspecting that something was amiss, the researchers contacted Volkswagen and the EPA, sharing their findings and seeking an explanation. Volkswagen initially dismissed the findings, attributing the discrepancies to technical glitches or testing errors. However, as the evidence mounted, the company eventually admitted to installing defeat devices in its diesel cars, software designed to cheat emissions tests. The David versus Goliath battle had begun, with a small team of independent researchers exposing the deception of a global automotive giant. Section 3. Beyond the Headlines, the Power of Independent Research. The role of the West Virginia University researchers in uncovering the Volkswagen emissions scandal highlights the critical importance of independent research and the power of scientific inquiry. Their work, initially a modest project with a limited budget, had profound implications, exposing a global conspiracy and leading to a fundamental shift in the automotive industry. The researchers' commitment to scientific rigor and their willingness to pursue the truth, even when faced with pressure from a powerful corporation, serve as an inspiration. Their story underscores the vital role that universities and independent research institutions play in holding corporations and governments accountable. The Dieselgate scandal might have remained hidden, its devastating environmental and public health consequences continuing unchecked, had it not been for the diligence and integrity of this small team. Their work is a testament to the power of independent research to challenge the status quo, expose wrongdoing, and drive positive change in the world. Section 1. The Electric Surge, a New Era, dawns. The Volkswagen emissions scandal, with its revelations of corporate deception and environmental negligence, served as a wake-up call for the automotive industry. The scandal tarnished the image of diesel technology, which had been marketed as a clean and efficient alternative to gasoline engines. Consumers, once drawn to diesel cars for their fuel economy, became wary of the technology, concerned about the potential health and environmental consequences of higher emissions. This shift in consumer sentiment coincided with a growing global awareness of the urgent need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and combat climate change. Governments around the world responded by strengthening emissions regulations, tightening fuel economy standards, and offering incentives for the development and adoption of electric vehicles. The Dieselgate scandal in many ways marked a turning point, accelerating the transition away from fossil fuels and towards a more sustainable transportation future. The electric vehicle market, once a niche sector dominated by a handful of manufacturers, experienced a surge in investment and innovation. Established automakers, recognizing the shifting landscape, poured billions of dollars into developing electric car platforms, expanding their EV lineups, and building out charging infrastructure. Section 2. Shifting gears, automakers pivot towards electrification. In the wake of the Dieselgate scandal, the automotive industry underwent a seismic shift in strategy. Automakers, once heavily invested in diesel technology, were forced to reevaluate their priorities and accelerate their plans for electric vehicle development.
Volkswagen, seeking to repair its tarnished reputation and regain consumer trust, made a particularly bold commitment to electrification. The company announced plans to invest tens of billions of dollars in developing a new generation of electric vehicles, building battery factories, and expanding its charging network.
Other major automakers followed suit, announcing ambitious electrification targets and launching new electric models across various segments, from compact cars to luxury SUVs. The race to dominate the burgeoning electric vehicle market was on, driven by a combination of regulatory pressure, consumer demand, and a growing recognition that the future of mobility was electric. The Dieselgate scandal, while a dark chapter in automotive history, had inadvertently catalyzed a technological transformation, forcing the industry to confront its environmental impact and embrace a more sustainable path. Section 3. A catalyst for change, Dieselgate's lasting impact. The Volkswagen emissions scandal, though rooted in deception and a disregard for environmental regulations, had a profound and ultimately positive impact on the trajectory of the automotive industry. The scandal exposed the limitations of relying solely on laboratory emissions testing, leading to the adoption of more stringent, real-world testing procedures that made it more difficult for automakers to cheat. This increased scrutiny extended beyond emissions, with regulators taking a closer look at fuel economy claims and other aspects of vehicle performance. The scandal also highlighted the environmental and public health consequences of excessive vehicle emissions, raising awareness about the urgent need to transition to cleaner transportation alternatives. This shift in public perception, coupled with government incentives and technological advancements, created a favorable environment for the rapid growth of the electric vehicle market. The Dieselgate scandal, while a costly and embarrassing episode for Volkswagen and the automotive industry, ultimately served as a catalyst for change, accelerating the transition to a more sustainable and electrified transportation future. Section 1. A turning point, lessons learned, and a new path forward. The Volkswagen emissions scandal, a dark chapter in automotive history, stands as a stark reminder of the consequences of corporate misconduct and the fragility of public trust. Volkswagen's deliberate deception, its willingness to prioritize profit over environmental responsibility and public health, shook the industry to its core. The scandal exposed the limitations of regulatory frameworks that relied too heavily on laboratory testing, allowing automakers to exploit loopholes and obscure the true environmental impact of their vehicles. Yet from the ashes of this scandal emerged a renewed sense of urgency and a determination to chart a more sustainable course for the automotive industry. The Dieselgate scandal became a turning point, accelerating the global shift towards electric vehicles and ushering in a new era of technological innovation and regulatory oversight. The scandal forced automakers to confront their environmental impact, invest heavily in cleaner technologies, and prioritize transparency and accountability. The lessons learned from Dieselgate continue to shape the industry today, driving the development of stricter emission standards, more robust testing procedures, and a greater emphasis on corporate social responsibility. Section 2. The Road Ahead, Navigating the Electric Future. The Volkswagen emissions scandal, while a painful reminder of past mistakes, also serves as a powerful catalyst for a cleaner, more sustainable transportation future. The scandal's most enduring legacy may well be its role in accelerating the global transition to electric vehicles. The tarnished image of diesel technology, coupled with advancements in battery technology, government incentives, and a growing awareness of the urgency of climate change, has created a perfect storm driving the electric vehicle revolution. The road ahead is not without its challenges. Building out charging infrastructure, addressing battery range anxiety, and ensuring the ethical sourcing of raw materials are just some of the hurdles that lie ahead. Yet the momentum behind electric mobility is undeniable. Automakers around the world are embracing electrification, investing billions in new electric models, battery factories, and charging networks. The Volkswagen emissions scandal, a dark cloud with a silver lining, has ultimately set the stage for a cleaner, more sustainable transportation future, one where electric vehicles play a leading role in reducing our reliance on fossil fuels and mitigating the impacts of climate change.